Amiga, do you ever feel caught between two worlds? You cherish your cultural background, but sometimes it clashes with the realities of raising a family in modern America. You might feel pressured to fulfill traditional expectations, yet you crave a life that allows you to be your true, authentic self. If you're a Latina mom nodding your head right now, I see you and I get it. Balanced Motherhood is more than your average Mami coaching program. It's a supportive comunidad designed specifically for you. I understand the unique challenges you face navigating between generations and culturas while forging your own path as a mama. Stop feeling like you have to choose between your roots and your future. Balanced Motherhood empowers you to create a life that celebrates your heritage, embraces your motherhood journey, and prioritizes your own happiness. Spots are limited. Don't miss out on this opportunity to connect with a supportive community and create a more balanced life. Visit the link in the show notes to join the waitlist for the next Balanced Motherhood cohort. I can't wait to meet you. Hola, hola, amiga. I want you to really think about when was the last time you practiced self-care? And I want to know, when was the last time you did this? Like, really. And I'm not just talking about taking a little bubble bath, what we typically think of. I really want to know, when was the last time you took care of yourself, when you prioritized on yourself? Because I think that as Latina women, we overlook this type of practice. And I think we're going to get real in this episode. On today's episode, we're going to really explore the importance of self-care as Latina moms. And really, how can we put ourselves first? And how can we really practice me time when we were taught to not even put ourselves first? We were taught to always serve the men at the table. We were taught to make sure that our parents are doing well, that our siblings are doing well, que la comadres, everyone else, we had to pour ourselves to them. But have we really experienced the time and given ourselves that ability to prioritize on ourselves? And so for this episode, we are really going to delve a little deeper about how we should take care of ourselves first. Welcome to the Viva la Mami podcast. I am your host, Jessica Cuevas. I am a mother of two on a mission to help redefine the meaning of motherhood as a modern Latina mom. Motherhood can be a complex journey, interwoven in two identities that often make us feel ni de aquí ni de allá. Viva la Mami is committed to providing you with knowledge, tools, and support to navigate the challenges and triumphs of motherhood as Latina moms. On the show, we'll be discussing culturally relevant topics that will help inform and empower you in whichever season you are in on your motherhood journey. We'll be joined by Latina moms, experts and professionals who can offer advice, practical tips, relatable stories, and honest conversations. So bring your cafecito as I invite you to be a part of this space as we create comunidad about the exciting and challenging parts of being a mommy. Ahora, vámonos. Okay, so I hope that you had the opportunity to really think about when was the last time you practiced self-care. And so for me, to be honest, I don't know when it was the last time. And for me, though, I think it's because we have gone through a whole madness of transitions. As you know, we have moved to another city, a different home. We have a 3-year-old. We have a 9-month-old. So I have little ones. I am a stay-at-home mom. And so I am with them all day, every day. Although I'm very lucky that Alex, my husband, is a remote worker. So he is here with us. But still, the kids are like nonstop asking for me, or they're super clingy. And at the end of the day, I just want to rest, even though I don't rest because I have, projects and things like that with my business. And so I haven't yet found the opportunity to really practice self care in a way that I want it to be. And so in today's episode, I really want to focus on this aspect, right, of taking care of yourself really as a Latina mom. And really, what is self care? And, if you Google it, you're going to get different variations and different definitions of what self care is. But for me, self care is basically a way in which you can establish a behavior that your well being is at the most upfront. So, meaning that you get to prioritize on your well being to not just establish a good relationship with yourself, but to honor yourself, your body, your soul. And that way, that you are taking care of yourself in a good way. And so we hear this often on social media, we see it on TV, we hear it pretty often about what self care looks like. And you literally see the image of someone taking a bubble bath or someone getting their nails done. And I think that all of those are great. But in my opinion, I think that those are just tools. And these are sort of like behaviors that you can implement. But does it really get to the root cause of literally taking care of yourself? How are you prioritizing yourself in that way? And so, because right now I am in a season where I haven't really focused on myself necessarily, I am just waiting for the time when I do. But I am trying, though, to pick on different ways of how I can take care of myself. And the first thing is by setting boundaries. First and foremost, I think it is important to set boundaries with individuals who perhaps are toxic to your life. So anyone that is toxico, I'd be like, no, you're not on my list. You're not going to be someone that I am going to frequent with, just because I want to set those boundaries. I want to set those limits so that I wouldn't feed off of your energy. I am someone that literally feeds off of people's energies, and I'm like, no, no, no. I'm not going to do this. In addition, even though right now it has been very difficult, but I am trying to get as much sleep done. It's been a struggle with a baby, even though I still feel like I'm in the newborn stage. Mateo, our 9-month-old, is literally 9 months and he still be waking up in the middle of the night. I'm like, come on, kid. Like, I know that you can do this. I know you can sleep through. And even though I'm honoring him and respecting him, I want to make sure that I at least get a little bit of sleep in. And so that's when I don't even set an alarm anymore in the morning. I am just in full survival mode for the sake of surviving, but also for me not to put so much pressure on myself to wake up super early before the kids. I kind of rely on the kids to wake up whenever they want, and then I kind of wake up with them. And so that is something that I'm taking care of myself, even though I'm not really having a full night's sleep. I don't want to be particular with my sleep schedule in waking up hella early just for the sake of waking up early. Like, I shouldn't pressure myself to wake up super early just because I want to get stuff done. Like, I usually am a little bit more productive at night, and that way things are kind of set before the next day. And so that is kind of my way of practicing self-care, in that way where I am resting enough for me to function. And so these are two little examples of how I practice self-care, setting boundaries with people that are not going to make a big impact on my life right now at this moment, and putting in a little bit of sleep and not adding pressure to myself to wake up so early. And so it is so important of breaking these cycles of putting yourself last. Like I said in the intro, we grow up with this narrative about putting yourself last. You literally have seen this with your mama, your abuela, about how they've put themselves at the back burner, not really prioritizing on themselves. And so, how can we kind of change that narrative and that mindset? If you practice self care, it will allow you to be more patient, present, and joyful moms for your children. And so, since I provided you with those two examples, maybe you can implement that if you feel like something's missing, if you haven't yet set boundaries, or if you haven't had enough sleep. I think that it is important to really reflect and think, okay, what am I missing? How can I better myself physically, emotionally, spiritually to put myself first? And that way I have a more meaningful, present, joyful life, especially when you are a new mom or you're navigating a new transition. How can you put that focus back to yourself? I know that my body often hurts when I don't practice self-care. If I don't get to sleep enough hours, I am not only exhausted, but I don't really have a clear thought process. Like I just have mom fog like no other. I also get easily irritated and angry, and I don't want that. And I have noticed, especially when we are in this new transition, whether if it's adapting to new sleep regressions, or for example, when we moved from the suburbs to the city, I was so exhausted. My body literally, my back was aching. I got a little bit of headaches, and it is pretty rare nowadays for me to get headaches. But that's when I know that my body isn't fully rested. If you haven't yet listened to your body and what your body is telling you, that is a sign that your body is responding to something that it needs. And that can be a way for you to take care of yourself and implementing that self-care, whether if it's putting in more hours in your sleep or exercising or walking. That way you can establish better behaviors with your body. Also, if you neglect self-care, it can cause a detriment to your mental health as well. If you're feeling burnt out, whether if it's at work or even momming, it is okay to feel burnt out as you are mothering. All right. And so if you are feeling this sense of exhaustion and overwhelm, if you don't put that focus back into taking care of yourself, whether if it's reading a book or seeking therapy, or again, setting boundaries with other people, like you could lose this sense of connection with yourself. And I think that for many of us, we face these challenges, right? We often feel guilty if we even want to think about establishing self-care. There are already societal expectations, not just in the modern world, but also there have been cultural expectations about why you shouldn't take care of yourself. And even though it's never been explicitly said to us, we know that there are implicit messages that we get or that we see where we shouldn't even think about ourselves, because the priority is our family, the priority is our partners, the priority is everyone else except us. And so even though there are societal structures that can contribute to these challenges, know that you are welcome to break them. This is your opportunity to break that cycle, to break those perceptions and even the images of the traditional Latina mom because you are in a new generation. And if you don't want your children to continue on with these cycles of not prioritizing on yourself, then right now it is our opportunity to do this. Okay. And so there are a variety of strategies to practice self care. And really, all what I'm going to provide you all is with a well rounded toolkit because we are all busy moms. So, the first thing that you can probably implement is utilizing mindfulness. And so perhaps you may want to implement breathing exercises or meditation. I know that I utilize yoga, especially prenatal yoga, because I developed a lot more anxiety on my second pregnancy with Mateo. And so I went to yoga once a week. And that was my kind of like opportunity to really listen to my breathing, to really meditate. And I continued on even with my breathing exercises beyond that yoga class. I know that I mentioned this as an example, but if you want to set boundaries with your family, I'm giving you permission to do that. The other strategy that I want to touch on is scheduling me time. So, really, what are activities that you can practice self care? These could be little things, whether if it's reading a book or taking a walk or hanging out with your friends who really know you and understand you and who you can be super open with. These are opportunities for you to prioritize on yourself. And really, it is so important to create a support system that can help with either chores or childcare. And that way, you don't even have to think about the kids or think about the house or whatever you have left behind. Scheduling me time in this regard can help you not to think about the invisible load that we often carry. I hope that these strategies were helpful for you as you practice self-care. And so I asked my followers on Instagram about just a couple questions that I created as I prepared for this episode. And on my stories, I asked a couple questions. So the first question was, what are some self-care struggles you're going through as a mommy right now? And someone literally said mom guilt. Just the fact that a mama is feeling guilty to even think about practicing self-care. Like, mujer, we should just stop this mindset. And I know that it is super, super hard when you are thinking about others, you're thinking about your kids, you're thinking about everyone else except for you. But again, if you really want to bring back that joy, become patient and kind to yourself and others, like we should also prioritize on ourselves in that way. The other question that I had was, have you learned to prioritize on yourself as a mom? And like 79% of you who answered this said no. So clearly, we know that moms, specifically Latina moms, because most of my followers are Latina women, it is clear that we don't put ourselves first. And another question that I asked was, when did this start? As in, when did you learn to start prioritizing on self-care? And I gave them 4 options. So one was during pregnancy, the other one was within the first year postpartum, the other one was after a year postpartum, and the final one was I haven't been able to practice self-care. And honestly, 0% of you said not during pregnancy, not within the first year. So within the first year of postpartum and even going back to pregnancy, we don't get to focus on self-care. And I think it's because of the constant messaging that we receive, whether if it's from our medical providers or just the narrative that the focus is on the baby. And if we don't focus on ourselves, how are we going to be present moms when we are trying to raise a newborn or even a 12-month-old? And so 33% of you said that you started to practice self-care after a year postpartum. So this isn't until 12 months later. And 67% of you said that I haven't been able to practice self-care at all. And again, it's like going back to the cultural norms about Latina moms. And then I became a little curious about when growing up, did you see your mom, abuelita, tia, or any other female figure in your family practice self-care? And 88% of you said no. And the 12% that you said yes, that you grew up seeing someone in your family practice self-care, the majority of you said that it was through movement, exercising. And so that was something that you noticed with those female figures. But for those of you who said, no, I didn't see anyone growing up practice self-care, I asked, what do you wish you could tell her now? And some of you said that it is okay to put yourself first, that there's no price for suffering the most. And so it's okay to go out, take that night away. And I think it is unfortunate that when we have seen these female figures and growing up, we didn't see them practice self-care as much as we wish they did. I think it is unfortunate that they never had that experience, that now they are older or perhaps they have passed away, and we never had that opportunity to really have that conversation with them about, well, how are you? Like, how are you? ¿Cómo estás? How are you prioritizing on yourself? And when you think about that, you should put yourself in those shoes as well. At the end of the day, you shouldn't be that mujer that you watched growing up not taking care of herself. I think it is time to relearn that and practice self-care in a way that you deserve, in a way that you want to be seen in the lens of your children, your grandchildren, and anyone else that is looking up to you. So just think about that. I want to end this episode with a couple takeaways about self-care. Your body is probably telling you something. Your emotions are probably telling you something. You may want to listen to it and know that you deserve to prioritize on yourself. It is so, so important to do that. And so I'm going to leave you with a mantra, and that is, this is my life and I will enjoy it the way that I want it to be. Notice that I didn't mention anyone else. It all falls back to you. And I know that I'm giving you all advice. And honestly, I'm going to take this advice to myself too, because I'm currently in this survival mode. So, Mami, I hope you had this opportunity to really reflect on this. And I hope that you can find ways to practice self-care and to refocus on yourself, to prioritize on yourself. At the end of the day, you want to be a happy mommy, a patient mommy, and a present mommy. So don't forget that. All right, amiga, I will see you in the next episode. Mujer, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to the Viva la Mami podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a favor and follow the podcast and leave a rating and review? Hitting that follow button and reviewing my show will allow other mommies like you find this podcast. Your review will also tell me if you enjoy the show, so I would truly appreciate your thoughts. Don't forget, please share this podcast con tus amigas. Also, make sure to follow me at Viva la Mami on Instagram or visit vivalamami.com. Please note the information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. Okay, mujer, thank you for joining y nos vemos in the next episode.